It's a pleasure to be here. I'd just like to say thanks to this wonderful city of San Francisco and the mayor and all of you great people for keeping the legacy of Otis Redding alive. And tell you just a quick thing about the song. My mother said my father was in California and done some shows in Los Angeles, and he came home and he told her he wanted to be a new Otis Redding and not the begging and pleading, and he wanted to do something totally different. And he came home and started putting bits and pieces of a song together. It goes like this. You can sing along if you want to. It goes like this. Sitting in the morning sun, and I'll be sitting till the evening comes, watching the ships roll in, and then I'll watch them roll away again. Yeah, I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh-wee, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. I left my home in Georgia, headed for the Frisco Bay. I have nothing to live for, and look like nothing's gonna come my way. So I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh-wee, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Look like nothing's gonna change. Everything still remains the same. I can't do what 10 people tell me to do, so I guess I remain the same. Sitting here resting my bones, and this loneliness won't leave me alone. 2,000 miles I roam just to make this dock my home. I'm just gonna sit on the dock of the bay, watching the tide roll away. Ooh-wee, sitting on the dock of the bay, wasting time. Whistle along with me, y'all. Thank you.
Better than that. How about a San Francisco welcome? Woo-hoo! Now, a few words about Otis Redding and that absolutely gorgeous song. Can you think of a better song for this great wharf? As you probably know, Otis Redding was in San Francisco to perform at the Fillmore in the summer of 1967. And he found himself for a week on a Sausalito houseboat, and apparently spent the week listening to the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band album. And from the Bay and the album came the inspiration for this incredible song. A couple months later, towards the end of the year, he recorded the song, and then tragically he passed away in a plane crash on December 10th, 1967. This song became the last recorded song by Otis Redding. It is an incredible song. It is so befitting. And it is something that we thought would inspire everyone who comes to this wharf, not just today, but ongoing. And the Otis Redding family has graciously allowed us to use some of his famous lyrics here at the Brannan Street Wharf. You can see them here, a mock-up. They will be permanently engraved at one of the markers down at the far end of the park. And they will be here to inspire visitors and locals alike as we come to this place on our amazing bay. And Otis Redding left a legacy greater than just his music. He left his wife, Zelma, and his wonderful children, 4 of whom are still with us. And this is Otis Redding III, also known as a junior. And he came all the way from Los Angeles to help us christen this wharf with that tremendous song. So please join me in welcoming Otis Redding Jr.
Thank you so much. I'd like to say thanks. This is a really beautiful thing, and our family, my mother sends her love, my sister Carla and Dexter, my sister Dee Dee, we all send our love here. We really appreciate this opportunity to keep fulfilling and continuing the legacy of Otis Redding. We have the Otis Redding Foundation, and our mission is simple. It's progress through education and enlightenment through music. And it's been founded since 2007, and we're doing very well. And you can always go to otisredding.com to learn more about our foundation. And thank you very, very much. This is a beautiful thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Redding. Truly, it is such an inspiration for all of us. Seeing all of you here today is also inspirational. So many of you have made today possible. I wish I could name and thank all of you as I look around this amazing crowd. Unfortunately, I can't, or we'd be here all day. I do want to take a moment to recognize some of the folks standing behind me. Of course, our Honorable Mayor, Mayor Ed Lee, President of our Board of Supervisors, David Chiu, Board Supervisor Jane Kim, Representative from Leader Pelosi's office, Dan Bernal, Larry Goldbands, Director of the BCDC, Port Commission President Doreen Woo Ho, Port Commissioner and former Supervisor Leslie Katz, DBI Director Tom Huey, San Francisco Fire Chief Joanne Hayes White, Fire Commissioner and former Port Commissioner Michael Hardiman, Planning Commission President and former Port Commissioner Rodney Fong, and eons of VIPs among you out there. So thank you all in joining us today. In the 45 years since that beautiful song was written, our own San Francisco Port waterfront has transformed, so nothing has stayed exactly the same, we're proud to say. And just like sitting on the dock of the bay is a jewel among Otis Redding's collection, the new Brannan Street Wharf is a jewel among the Port's Park Open Space collection, and we are so amazingly proud of it. It has taken a very long time and hundreds of people, but transformation of this kind of a waterfront doesn't come easy. For those of you who know it keenly, it was 1,000 feet of failing edge, dilapidated piers, and a tried but true seawall. And today, as you look around, it is 1,000 feet of public space, a place where we can walk along and experience the bay peacefully, playfully. We can gather here, we can work here, we can recreate here, and we can celebrate here. And I am so pleased and thankful to all of you who have made this moment possible. I want to take a short second to recognize some truly deserving port staff. First and foremost, Planning Project Manager Dan Hodap, with Byron Rett, Diane Oshima, Mark Paez, Linda Swanson, several interns, and a whole planning division. Engineering Project Manager Stephen Reel, Lead Architect Wendy Proctor, Architect Alan Jin. I would like to note that the architectural work was done in-house at the port. We're very, very proud of that. And the entire engineering division. Our dedicated real estate staff led by Susan Reynolds. Our maintenance staff, led by Tom Carter, who have made this place look just amazing for all of you today. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Our maritime staff, led by Peter Daly, and our finance and administration staff, led by Elaine Forbes. And so it is now my honor to welcome the man who has dedicated his life to transforming and improving our city, Mayor Ed Lee.
Thank you. Thank you, Monique, for that wonderful introduction. And Mr. Redding, thank you again. Welcome back. For a moment, I felt how it is to waste some time. Don't do that very often these days. And I'm sure my colleagues at the Board of Supervisors also don't know how that feels very much. But I want to thank and welcome everybody here to our waterfront. This is the kind of event that we're happy to not only engage in, but to bring more people to our waterfront. That has been the purpose of the port for so many years. And I want to just congratulate the port, its commission, and its staff, because this is, in fact, 150 years of celebration of our port. And what a way to celebrate with all these wonderful things that are happening here. It's taken 15 years for this project to get done. 15 years. That's a tenth of the history of the port of San Francisco. And there's a lot of people to thank, and Monique's already thanked them, but it's worth repeating. I think the Bay Conservation and Development Commission, the Port Commission, our port staff, Public Works, all of the departments behind me, Rec and Park, our federal partners have certainly been extremely important. Thank you to everyone for getting to this point. And thank you for the contractors as well, because this has been one of the most visible projects where people along the waterfront have traversed this project for quite some time and did not experience any public safety challenges along the way. So I want to thank them for that high level of safety. 840 feet alongside our Embarcadero promenade. Really blessed to have 2 beautiful acres of open space to welcome more people to enjoy our waterfront. That is what our city does, and especially in these times along our waterfront, you've seen all the things that we've done literally in the past year. Brannan Street Wharf today. Last June, we had the privilege of opening up just up north, Jefferson Street Promenade. February, earlier this year, we did the James Cruise ship terminal, the cruise ship terminal at Pier 27. And of course, last November, we all did a lot of great celebration just a little bit more south here at Heron's Head Park, 22 acres of open space. So we're literally honoring our open space obligations and doing it the right way. This particular project is impressive not only for its beauty and opening up more space, but it does, in a seismically safe way and in a sustainable way, accommodate some 75 years of projected sea level rise for our city. And that's incredible because we always are having to pay attention to all of our environment around our city. We're 3/4 the bay. And so that's a respectful thing. We do it on Ocean Beach. We do it along Golden Gate, along the Maritime, and of course, here in our waterfront. It's all also about history, not just with Otis Redding III, not with the 150 years here, but the history that's represented by the panels that you'll see, the interpretive art panels that are on display here. 8 panels in total, but they will run the gamut of explaining some important history, not only for our waterfront, but our whole history of our city. When it talks about the maritime history of the waterfront, it will also talk about the history of Asian immigration and the challenges of a certain family member who lived through generations of the history here. It'll talk about that family. It'll talk about the labor history of our city, and particularly the hard history of our waterfront labor struggles. And that International Longshore and Warehouse Union, yes, very important part of our city's history are reflected in these wonderful artistic and historic panels. And that'll just give us even much more of a deeper sense of appreciation for what our city does with this. Then this opens up a viewpoint that I know that I personally share, because it's not just the history. We're also going to be opening up this area for even more people as we establish and get going on Piers 3032 and transform what has historically been dying piers into the hopeful new entertainment and waterfront arena. And I know that less than 5 years, an additional 13 acres of open space will be had. Half of that will be open more and more to the public. So I want to I see Gail Hunter, Vice President of the Warriors here. I want to thank you for your commitment to working with the city to try to make this happen. I think this will be a wonderful, great entertainment sports center for our city. But again, the purpose is to bring more people to the waterfront and enjoy what our city has. We're already starting to enjoy an event that everyone has been working on very hard for quite some time, and I know I have with the board, and that is our 34th America's Cup. And the jobs and benefits are starting to materialize even more deliberately, and we're celebrating again more open space that event has allowed us and caused us to accelerate. This project was worth every dollar of the $26.1 million that was spent on this project. It's worth it. Projects along the waterfront are not inexpensive, as everyone here behind me can attest to, because they have to do with the challenges of water, dying piers, and all of that infrastructure work that has to go with it. And so it is not only appropriate, we are blessed with 4 very contributing great resources that we used to fund this $26.1 million. The Federal Water Resources Development Act of 2007, you have to recognize that. The California Coastal Conservancy, federal appropriations, and Daniel, again, thank our leader Pelosi for her wonderful support, always there for us. And then I think constantly what I always enjoy, in addition to thanking our federal support, is our taxpayers in San Francisco. But for the 2008 Clean and Safe Neighborhood Parks Bond, this would not have happened, and that's a big shout out to all of the taxpayers in San Francisco. Thank you everybody for coming in to celebrate. Thank you for enjoying with me a brief moment of time wasted and remembered, all in celebration of this great waterfront. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I really appreciate all those remarks, and I'm glad that you're as happy about it as I am. Of the great features here is the fact that underneath where all of you are now standing is a fairly robust and rebuilt seawall. So that was an important cadence of this project, as well as a lot of great seismic features we are piloting here at the park, and piloting a response to sea level rise. So we're very, very proud of everything you can see and a lot of what you can't see. And we'd also like to thank our partners at our other city departments, starting with our dedicated and hardworking Board of Supervisors, the Department of City Planning, especially Chelsea Fordham, the Department of Public Works, especially Carl Lucas Yee, the Department of Rec and Park, especially Phil Ginsburg and Don Kalamanathan, who have helped us get this far. And I want to thank, in particular, President of the Board, David Chiu, for always being there for the port when the waterfront has needs. And we look forward to a long future with him in that role. Please join me in welcoming President Chiu.
Thank you, Monique, and good morning. So when I was invited to come and participate at this event, I suggested that the elected officials, Mayor Lee and Supervisor Kim, that the 3 of us do a rendition of Sitting on the Dock by the Bay. And I just want to say thank you, Otis Redding, for sparing us of that. One of the things that is so special about that song is it refers to Otis Redding's experience of coming from thousands of miles away. And I would suspect, I certainly know that's true for all the elected officials who are here today. We all came from other parts of the country to this very sacred space called San Francisco. And my guess is everyone here, you either came from somewhere else or you are the child or the grandchild of someone who decided to pick up from another dock from another part of the world to be where we are today. And in fact, over 160 years ago, this was the embarkation point for thousands of immigrants, particularly the first Asian immigrants, to this very spot. And I think it's very, very special that we are rededicating it as a community space. It takes a village for us to build a park, and I want to very much add the thanks to the so many city staff that came together, who Monique and Mayor Lee have already mentioned, but I want to thank in particular the port for your leadership over the many years, all the departments, Mayor Lee, I also want to thank an agency that I have the pleasure of serving on that many members of the public don't really know much about. It's called BCDC, the Bay Conservation Development Commission. Thank you, BCDC. For those of you who don't know, BCDC is the commission that is responsible for protecting the bay, protecting the access of the public to the bay, protecting the fact that our bay had, for many decades until BCDC came along, been encroached by development that not everyone thought was appropriate. And I think it's so special that we are focused today on making sure that this very spot and spots around the entire bay are protected. One of the interesting design aspects of what we stand on right now is that this is built to withstand sea level rise, because we know over the next 50 years, it's estimated anywhere from 18 to 55 inches worth of sea rise will happen because of our environment. So I want to thank BCDC for that. I also, of course, want to add and echo my thanks to the voters of San Francisco for approving bond measures in 2008 and 2012 to get this done. We know that this spot, for decades to come, will allow us to celebrate the history of our city, allow us to celebrate the very best of the present of our city, and allow us to continue in making sure that San Francisco is the most amazing destination in the entire world for the 21st century. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, President Chiu. I really appreciate your kind words on behalf of all of us at the port and the other city departments. You know, this wharf was scheduled to be done by 2020. It's 2013, which is a really good thing. And it could not have come as quickly or frankly as inspirationally without the work of all of our partners at the community advisory committees and our neighbors. And I want to say a special thank you to all of the volunteers who have dedicated themselves so tirelessly. I want to start by thanking our friend Mimi Silbert for her leadership and her tenacity on this. Michael Sweet, who I saw in the crowd somewhere, Alfonso Felder, and Ellen Junk in particular, Corinne Woods, Isabel Wade, and in absentia, Milton Marks III and Redmond Kernan. They have passed on, but they have left us something really beautiful, and we're really pleased about that. And we just want to say a special word of thanks to all of the community that live here. Thank you so much for your dedication to this project, for your patience, for your tolerance. As we closed bike lanes, we closed passenger lanes, we closed the sidewalks, we drove piles, we poured cement, we laid grass. It was all worth it, and we really appreciate how tolerant and patient and the cheerleaders that you've been in doing that. So thank you so much. And a special thank you to the District 6 Supervisor, who has remained equally vigilant, but also very tolerant and patient, our very own Jane Kim. Please help me in welcoming Supervisor Kim.
Thanks, Wendy. First of all, what a treat to have Otis Redding III here with us this morning. I'm a huge fan. And as an elected official, as a politician, many of my role models are actually musicians, and Otis Redding is one of them. And he sang my favorite version of the Sam Cooke song, A Change Is Gonna Come. Beautiful, beautiful rendition, and it is amazing to have you here to bless this site where he based his last song before he died too young. As a district supervisor for this area, I am genuinely excited to welcome a new park into our district. Many of our residents know this. We have the fewest parks, and we have the smallest parks in the city. And compared to residents in other parts that may have 25 acres per residence, we have less than one, about 0.7. So this park is a very important addition to completing the neighborhood that we live in. An active waterfront does help to address this deficit, and I'm excited to see 57,000 square feet of a park and 400-foot expanse of green go up in this neighborhood. And Monique said it, but this neighborhood really lived through that. And so I want to thank our residents. We fielded many calls as people lived through the building of the neighborhood around them. But I want to thank this neighborhood because planners and architects and developers, we can build a neighborhood, but people have to choose to live here. And the residents who chose to live in South Beach and Rincon Hill and Mission Bay knew they weren't just coming to a place where they could call their neighborhood home. They knew that it was a place where the neighborhood would continue to build while they invested their lives here. And it also meant that they would have to continue to be engaged and active around the neighborhood planning and future of their neighborhood. And so many of our residents are here. I'll name a couple that have been incredibly active, working with our office, working with the port, working throughout the neighborhood. Katie Lydell, our former president of the South Beach Mission Bay Rincon Hill neighborhood. Robert Mansfield, Alice Rogers from South Park Improvement Association. Mimi Silbert, you were here way before many others were here with Delancey Street Foundation, and I know your residents really got to experience the brunt of this benefit that we're now experiencing today. And the Brannan Street Wharf is a beautiful new addition to this area, connecting to the Blue Greenway, which will be a 13-mile corridor along San Francisco's southeastern waterfront that started here. Corinne was already mentioned, our Mission Bay Citizen Advisory Committee. Many of these folks are also advising us on an equally non-controversial project on the waterfront, which we will hear more about in the next year and a half. I also want to welcome the relatives of the late Wong Fu Yen, who is here with us today. And both President Chiu and the mayor mentioned this, but we have a new interpretive wall on the Asian migration to San Francisco to recognize the special contribution that Asians and Asian Americans have made to this part of the waterfront and the city. As was mentioned, the waterfront was a very place that Asian immigration came to the United States. And the California Gold Rush certainly brought a steady influx of Asian American laborers who helped to build the infrastructure of this country, including our railroads. On June 23rd, 1877, a huge mob attacked Chinese businesses here and headed for the local symbol of Chinese immigration, the Pacific Mall Wharf, where we stand today. They tried to burn the pier, but failed. I think it's important that we recognize and remember our history, because as we move forward, as we celebrate our victories, our progress, it's really important to remember those that came before us and the history that was here today. But most importantly, I'm here to celebrate. This open space will be an incredibly important addition and resource for our families, our kids, our seniors who we want to encourage to continue to stay here in San Francisco and be a part of this thriving, vibrant neighborhood and community. But again, I'm most grateful for the fact to work with residents who are so engaged, that care so deeply about the city and neighborhood, that they volunteer tons of their hours when they could be doing other things, making sure that they are a part of that. So thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Kim. That was perfectly said. We really appreciate it. And if I could direct all of your attention to her fabulous psychedelic boots, befitting of this moment. I told Mr. Redding that she put those on special for him. So it is very apropos, as always. Thank you so much. We've had many, many partners, and one of the biggest was from the federal government. As you may know, this project went from being about an $11 million project to about a $26 million project, and had a few surprises for us as it related to the seawall and some of the other things we wanted to do. With the help of Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi, we were able to find $5 million in grant funds to close that gap and move this project forward. And it created for us not just the ability to do this great project, but the ability to find ourselves a fabulous new partner in the United States Army Corps of Engineers. So I want to say a very big thank you to the UASI people, especially Tessa Bernhardt, for your dedication and your help in getting our old and blighted Pier 36 out of this great bay to make room for this new addition. And I especially want to say thanks to Leader Pelosi for always advocating for ports around this country, especially our port, for the work that she does to make sure that the jobs that ports provide stay in place, not just at our port, but around the country. And for one of her most brilliant decisions ever, which was the hiring of Dan Bernal as her chief of staff for the San Francisco office, and his tireless leadership, his dedication to biking our waterfront in preparation for his statewide rides, and just his true great friendship. So please join me in welcoming Dan Bernal.
Wow, thank you, Monique. Well, Leader Pelosi was already disappointed that she couldn't be here today, but wait until I tell her about Otis Redding and about all our friends up here and our friends in the audience, Mimi Silbert, Jane Morrison, Veronica Sanchez, David Lewis, all of you here. Boy, she really missed out. So while she couldn't be here today, she asked me to bring a greeting to you, which I'll read now. Dear friends, thank you, Mayor Lee, members of the Board of Supervisors, and the Port Commission for inviting me to the special ribbon cutting at the new Brannan Street Wharf. Thanks to the Port of San Francisco and the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission for their vision in preserving and enhancing our magnificent and historic waterfront. While congressional business keeps me in Washington today, I join you in spirit to celebrate the transformation of a once dilapidated pier into an exciting new space for outdoor recreation. I wish I could be with you on this special day to enjoy Otis Redding III's rendition of his father's classic Sitting on the Dock of the Bay. Just a few years ago, Pier 36 was condemned due to structural deterioration. Its demolition not only removed navigation and environmental hazards in San Francisco Bay, but opened the door for enhancing the connections between San Franciscans and our beautiful waterfront. I have been proud to fight for federal resources to facilitate removal and ensure the success of this project for the South Beach neighbors and all of San Francisco. Today, the Brannan Street Wharf, with its public space and new park, has become another jewel along San Francisco's magnificent Embarcadero. The open spaces and plazas will provide a safe and healthy environment for San Francisco's families and children to gather, and the interpretive exhibits, including the beautiful portrait of Wang Fun-yen, will help visitors and residents learn about San Francisco's rich labor and maritime history and vibrant immigrant communities. Thank you again to Mayor Lee and Mayors Newsom and Brown before him, and the Port of San Francisco for making this day possible, and best wishes for memorable celebration. Best regards, Nancy Pelosi, Democratic Leader. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, very much. And please take our best and most gracious respects back to Congresswoman Pelosi, your colleagues in your San Francisco office, and of course in the Capitol. They are just fabulous for all of us. Another group that needs a recognition is the Port Commissioners themselves, present and past. They have been with us for this project along the way. They have worked hard to marshal scarce resources to make this project possible as the budget kept rising and the need to do more work kept rising with it. And to say a few words of gratitude on all of our behalfs, please welcome Port Commission President Doreen Woo-Ho.
Thank you, Monique, and I will try to be brief. You've had a lot of speeches, but I'm just as excited to be here, and having heard that song, it really brought back lots of memories as well. Well, just 2 years ago, as you heard, this was this newly constructed wharf and beautiful space was 1,000 feet of closed waterfront, and you've heard all the obstructions we had. It had a chain link fence and a red tagged, as we call, and it was not usable. So now it's the centerpiece of the South Beach waterfront. It's a new public space that welcomes the city to the bay, and thanks to the hard work and diligence of many people. I just want to reiterate, open space is a very important component of the Port's planning process for the development of the waterfront, and the Commission works very hard with the Port staff. In the Port's waterfront land use plan, our blueprint for the 7.5 miles of waterfront, we make a conscious effort to plan and maintain open access for the benefit of our residents and our visitors. And the Port now has 86 acres of open space, which is about 10% of the Port property. And our ongoing plan calls for increasing this amount to about 28 acres within the next 8 years. So this is not the beginning or the end, but we're in the midst of what we're trying to do. But as you know, and you heard from all the other speakers, providing open space is a very expensive undertaking. In the past 13 years, the Port has spent approximately $109 million on public spaces. And we've been able to do this, as you heard, various sources of funding, but we want to acknowledge, in particular today, the taxpayers of San Francisco that have passed the 2 general obligation bonds in 2008 and 2012 that have made our open space programs possible, and our partnership, as I said earlier, with our local, state, and federal agencies. This important project is also about our bay, and everybody's also mentioned the important part in terms of addressing the seawall and addressing the sea level rise in the future. So we hope to use this park to educate people about how active our bay and tides are with tidal columns that illustrate tidal change that we experience each day, a change that can go up as high as 8 feet. So the port's open space is a real reason for many people, both local as well as tourists, to visit the waterfront in San Francisco. And we have become one of the most visible and most loved, I think, waterfronts in the world. And all of us at the Port Commission are extremely proud of that. But I also want to mention, as mentioned earlier, this is not really the work of just the current commission. And I want to thank again Mayor Ed, the Board of Supervisors, BCDC, and the Port Commission. And our current Port Commissioner, of which Leslie Katz is here today, but my other fellow commissioners, Commissioner Kimberly Brandon, Commissioner Willie Adams, and Commissioner Mel Murphy. And our former Port Commissioners, FX Crowley, Rodney Fong, who is here, Ann Halstead, Mike Hardiman, who is here, Ann Lazarus, Dennis McCarthy, and Brian McWilliams. They've all worked very hard to make this day possible. And I got to recognize you again, Mimi, for all the work that you've done. Monique Moyer and her staff have been very active in the development of the Brannan Street Wharf, and I want to especially mention again, on behalf of the Commission, the work of Dan Hodap and Stephen Reed, and our neighbors and friends here in South Beach. And as I like to say, and in closing, one of the things that I'd love to talk about in the waterfront when people ask me about it is that we do have a conscious policy that every 5 to 7 minutes you're going to come across an open space so that you can enjoy the beauty of this bay. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Wu Ho. It means a lot to us that you're here today with Commissioner Katz and our former commissioners. It's been a very long haul. You know, the inspiration and the vision for this open space at the San Francisco waterfront goes back at least 20 years, maybe 40 years, maybe 45 years. And the inspiration behind that has already been mentioned, but it is our colleagues at the San Francisco Bay Conservation and Development Commission and the many Bay advocates, including Save the Bay, San Franciscans for a Better Tomorrow, all kinds of friends, San Francisco Beautiful, etc. And I want to say a special thanks to Brad McRae and Mindy Young and Larry Goldsman and Will Travis before him at the Bay Conservation and Development Commission for advocating for open space, demanding it, penalizing us when we didn't do it as fast as they liked, and being very patient as well when it took a little longer and a lot more money than anybody envisioned. And so please join me in thanking BCDC and welcoming Larry Goldspan, the Executive Director of BCDC.
Thank you, Monique. And I want to recognize all the elected and appointed officials here today. And I especially want to thank Supervisor Chiu for his leadership on BCDC and for all of their hard work on developing the great Brannan Street Wharf. Together, BCDC and the Port of San Francisco always seem to figure out how to make something get done for the waterfront. And we really do that in a spirit of cooperation, and we try to do that in a spirit of creativity. And as you look around this marvelous space, I think you see both plainly evident before you. Let me say that as the only person, I think, between you and actually enjoying the space, I'll be very short. We all recognize that the Bay is a regional resource that's protected by the state. And the Brannan Street Wharf project is a major success of BCDC's and the Port's shared vision of the San Francisco shoreline. Because the wharf is one of the key public benefits arising from the special area plan for the waterfront, a plan that was developed well over a decade ago by BCDC and the Port to bring into alignment the needs and hopes of a wide variety of community groups, individuals, and other stakeholders who are all interested in conserving and developing the Bay and its resources. And conserving and promoting open spaces along the waterfront is increasingly important as the region grows. So though the Bay is 550 square miles, and it goes from way down in San Jose to Napa and out through Solano County, you know, from here, as we all look out, it seems as though we can see so much of it, and along with the bridge that carries its name. And we want to congratulate the City and County of San Francisco and the Port of San Francisco for creating this magnificent, magnificent piece of space that we can all enjoy. We have worked collaboratively with the community stakeholders who helped design it, and we have created a public space that meets the needs of the people who both live around here and who visit San Francisco. So I'll get out of your way, and let's now enjoy it. Thank you very much.
One more group to thank, and it's the most important one. I would very much like to thank the men and the women who have worked tirelessly in the water and out to demolish Pier 36, rebuild our seawall, and create this great park for all of us. Led by Winsler and Kelly and Structus Inc., it is a long list. I won't say everybody's name, but thanks to them, West Bay Builders, Zacher, Dutra Construction, Bowman Landscape, and many, many more, we now all have this park today and for many generations to come. So it is with great pleasure that I would like to invite the mayor, the members of the board, members of Congresswoman Pelosi's office, the port commissioners past and present, and my fellow department heads to cut the ribbon. And yay, yay, let's hear it. Come on, ride the ducks. And when we are done, we invite you for some refreshments. Please explore the park. There are interpretive panels. As you've seen, there are docents to talk you through the panels on labor or on Chinese immigration or many other topics. Please check out the title columns, all kinds of great things for you to explore. So thank you all for coming today, and let's cut the ribbon.
4, 3, 2, 1.